back in town. The Crimson Tide had a bye week last week, but even during the bye, Coach Saban and company was preparing, working on fundamentals all week in practice as the Tide takes on Ole Miss, the Rebels in Oxford, Mississippi, this Saturday, October the 4th, 2014. And with that being said, welcome into 15 and counting. Touchdown Alabama Magazine's premier football show coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I'm joined always by my partner in crime, Ivan L. White of Texas. Ivan, what's going on?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Ready for a big weekend of SEC football, man.
The SEC West goes to war this weekend. I remember in week 2 of college football, the Big Ten was put under the microscope. They failed miserably. So this weekend, the SEC West, one of the toughest divisions in college football, goes to war this week. And it starts off with this game right here, Alabama versus Ole Miss. Alabama and Mississippi Rebels have met 61 times. Alabama leads the series 47-9 with 2 ties. Of the last time Ole Miss beat Alabama, marked back 2003. Ole Miss had Eli Manning as the quarterback and David Cutcliffe as his head coach. Last season, Alabama shut out Ole Miss and Bryant-Denny 25-0. And the last time Alabama went to Oxford to face the Rebels, Trent Richardson was the Tide's running back. Alabama won that game 52-7. Trent Richardson, 183 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. But in this game, Ivan, it starts with number 14 of Ole Miss, Bo Wallace, the quarterback. He's a senior this season. 6'4", 230 pounds, and when you look at him, just the arm talent, the size, the measurables, it screams Heisman quarterback, it screams Davey O'Brien, it screams potential NFL prospect. But Bo Wallace has become the quintessential Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He'll have games where he's consistent, and he has games where he struggles. So far this season, 6 interceptions, 3 of them against Boise State to start the season. He does have 11 touchdown passes. He does have 1,271 passing yards. Let's not forget, he's completing 71% of his passes. But against Alabama, a team that you can't afford to help out by giving them the ball, by coughing up the ball and giving turnovers, what must Bo Wallace do in this football game? Because he has the receiving talent around him. The offensive line is pretty good. But what does Bo Wallace need to do in this ball game? And does head coach Hugh Freeze limit Bo Wallace's pass attempts?
I don't think Coach Hugh Freeze will limit Bo Wallace's pass attempts, but the thing I think that will happen is you'll see different types of passes that we've yet to see from Bo Wallace. Obviously, Bo Wallace is kind of like a Blake Sims type quarterback. He likes the underneath routes, the short 5 to 10 range, get the first down, halfway to the first down kind of passes. Well, as we saw, Florida knew that as well against Blake Sims, so they pressed up as we thought would happen, and it left the long ball open up over the top. I think the same thing will happen for Bo Wallace this week. I feel like they're going to cut down those underneath routes, and they're going to want to test Bo Wallace's deep threat. They're going to want to test to see if they can get the ball down there and pass the ball downfield successfully against this Crimson Tide defense.
Now, the one thing I just mentioned that Bo Wallace does have, he does have weapons at the wide receiver position. Yes, Dante Moncrief is gone, but Ole Miss did return Laquan Treadwell, tight end Evan Ingram, and receivers Cody Core and Ben Sanders. You look at Cody Core, Ben Sanders, and Laquan Treadwell. All 3 guys are 6 feet taller. Ben Sanders being the shortest at 6'1". But Ben Sanders is the burner. He's got that high leaping ability, can make the catches in traffic. Laquan Treadwell, Cody Core, and Ben Sanders combined, Ivan, 845 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns. You're going up against the Alabama secondary, which got great news this week during the bye week. Jarrett Williams and Eddie Jackson will both suit up. They will both play. Now, you look at it, you'll have Cyrus Jones and Eddie Jackson starting in this game, but look out for Tony Brown. He can see a lot of field time. Coach Saban has been very high on Tony Brown. But when you look at the Ole Miss receiving core, what should they do? You're at home in your environment. You're going up against the Alabama secondary that's steadily improving. You still see some holes there, but steadily improving. If you're Ole Miss, if you're the receiving core, do you take the inside routes, the slant routes, the 6 and in routes, or do you burn them deep on the post routes and make somebody else outside of Landon Collins beat you? Or do you work the inside routes first, give Bo Wallace that big-time receiving body, receiving target to throw to, and then go up the deep post routes? How should Ole Miss's receiving core get Bo Wallace forward in the game early?
Well, like I said, Alabama's obviously going to try and contain Bo Wallace's short ball passes, so they're going to want him to go over the top. So his receivers, what they're going to have to do is, I think they have to be very physical after the hike. They're going to have to make sure they get in the faces. The cornerbacks are going to press because obviously they're going to want to cut off those short routes. Be physical. I would say on a crossing route, there should be a chip every time. If you're an Ole Miss receiver, pick plays, chip plays, whatever you want to call it. When the receivers come across the middle of the field and they crisscross, one of them has to take out one of the defensive backs. I don't mean obviously pass interference, but you at least got to chip them to get your other receiver, your teammate, some space where he can make a catch, and that can help out Bo Wallace. And I believe that Laquan Treadwell's going to be that man that they're going to need to step up the most because, like they said, the Alabama defensive backfield is pretty much as healthy as it's been since the beginning of the year. So it's at full power now. You're going to get one of the best defenses in the nation at 100%, and that's a little scary if I'm Ole Miss.
When you look at Ole Miss, also the run game, they struggle running the ball so far this season. Yes, they're without Jeff Scott, but you bring back Octavius Mathers and Jayden Walton. Two guys that bring a different style to the running back position. Jayden Walton, more of the power guy, loves to run behind his pads, in between the tackle. You look at Octavius Mathers, he's that speed guy that can break into the open, get to the edge, and go to pay dirt. Ole Miss's offensive line, they have to dominate up front and not just protect Bo Wallace, but get the run game started with Octavius Mathers and Jayden Walton. Will Ole Miss be able to run the football?
I'll say they're able to run the football, but not for anything over 2 to 3 yards per carry. I mean, they might have a big play here and there. I just don't see them running the ball successfully. I mean, I know you can't undercredit any opponent, but after what they did last week against Memphis at home, I don't want to know. I know some people are calling it a trap game. No matter what, you're an SEC team. You should not be putting up that kind of display against an American Conference team. So I don't see them being very successful, and this offense is the biggest question. But the defensive side of the ball for Ole Miss is just as questionable, too. The Camdici boys are over there. I'm looking for Robert Camdici to have a breakout game, but it's not just Camdici. It's all 11 men on the field. You have to be ready and up to play for this game. I know Oxford's up for this game. I know the players seem like they're ready for this game, but it's different from when you're getting hyped before the game to when you're finally in pads and full uniform and the first couple plays are through. You have to make sure that you don't let the opportunity that you have at your hands just overcome the pressure that is on you and your program.
Look at Blake Sims coming into the season. He had 3 questions to answer. Question 1, could he actually play? Question 2, could he really drive the ball downfield with deep passes? And question 3, can he win on the road? He's answered the first 2 questions. This is the big question, the final test. Can Blake Sims take this team on the road in a hostile environment over there at Ball Hemingway Stadium in Oxford and win the football game? Now, I know this game is going to come down most importantly to Alabama's offensive line. This Ole Miss defensive front is going to be one of the most physical lines that Alabama has seen all season. Can these guys, Ari Kwanjo, Ryan Kelly, Austin Shepard, Cam Robinson in the game, block up front, protect Blake Sims, get the run game started with T.J. Yeldon, Derrick Henry, and Kenyon Drake. But most importantly, will Blake Sims' feet be critical in this football game? Because he's shown he can pass, he's shown that he can be elusive, but can he keep himself composed, keep his team composed, and can Blake Sims win for Alabama on the road?
I think he can, and the X factor for this game for me, I think, is O.J. Howard, to be honest. Now, when I say that, is of course you have Amari Cooper outside, Heisman hopeful, and one of the best receivers in the nation. You also have Blake Sims this year, adding a little question mark to the Alabama offense with his mobile ability. You're going to want to put a spy on him. And putting a spy on a quarterback means you take away one of the linebackers. And when you do that, it helps the tight end every week. I feel like O.J. Howard, this is his breakout game. I feel like we've been saving him for the whole year, specifically for this reason. Once teams started learning that Blake Sims could use both his arm and his legs as a threat, they were going to start using the linebackers to take away one player to cover the tight end. Instead, they're going to use him on Blake Sims. So I feel like O.J. Howard, if he can get open, Ole Miss is really going to have to make a tough choice there. Do you want the tight end to be open, or are you going to want Blake Sims to run for 6 to 8 yards per carry? Because that's, I don't know the exact number he's averaging right now, but he's getting a lot of yardage when he does choose to run. Although I am liking that he's keeping his eyes downfield, always looking for the pass.
You mentioned Amari Cooper, Ivan. Huge question right here. If Ole Miss puts Tony Carter or freshman cornerback C.J. Hampton on Amari Cooper. Does this mean defensive back, senior safety, Cody Pruitt has to have double duty in trying to take away Amari Cooper, giving help to Hampton, giving help to Tony Carter? Or if not, do you see Ole Miss depending on one of these corners to take Amari Cooper one-on-one?
I don't think they ever want anybody one-on-one with Amari Cooper. So I would assume they're going to be a lot of help defense with Amari Cooper. Now, DeAndrew White is the person I'd be more scared of if I was Ole Miss, because he is a very good secondary option. He's been injured a little bit this season. His numbers aren't as high as they could be. But with him presumably at full health this week, it's going to be interesting to see if you choose to double cover Amari, are they going to leave DeAndrew open? And don't ever forget about the running backs coming out the backfield for Alabama too.
And don't ever forget about Christian Jones.
Don't forget about Christian Jones. We have Kenyon Drake, who loves to come out on the screen passes and loves to get in the open field. So there's multiple weapons in Alabama offense. It's going to be a lot, and it's going to be a daunting task, not only for any team to handle, but especially Ole Miss, because of the way their defense plays. They either want to play very physical, or they're kind of laid back and nonchalant. They're going to have to be intense into the game, 100% motor going from the first start to the end of the game. So my biggest thing about Ole Miss's defense is you can only cover so many people. So what are you going to do when you're with adversity and your back's against the wall? Are you going to hold down and anchor down or hold to a field goal? Or are you going to, just let the offensive line of Alabama and everybody else just push you around?
Outside the Kimdichis, impact player for Ole Miss defense this weekend.
Oh, that's Cody Pruitt. The man opened up his mouth this week.
Social media is not your friend.
You don't speak ill towards another team unless you can back it up on the field, especially in SEC play. So I want to see if this man can back up his talk. Now, we do know the last person, a certain University of Kentucky running back, that opened his mouth against the Crimson Tide, and we all saw what happened last year in that game. So I want to see how both teams respond to that trash talk. Now, I don't know if it was swept underneath the rug, if it's bulletin board material or not, but if somebody did speak ill towards your team, you got to back it up.
You definitely have to back it up. You're going to go with Cody Pruitt. I'm going to go with Cedarius Bryant. Cedarius Bryant at the linebacker position, he has to be the impact player. If they use him as a spy on Blake Sims, or if not, he's going to have to get in that backfield, disrupt the timing of Alabama's offensive line and the plays that Alabama's going to want to run offensively. Last thing here on this topic, Ivan, the running backs for the Crimson Tide. Which back gives the Crimson Tide the best chance of establishing a run game and ultimately winning this football game?
I think the best back in this game would be Kenyon Drake because of his speed on the outside and the physicality, like I said, that Ole Miss likes to play with. But I would not be surprised if you match fire with fire and go Derrick Henry against that physical Ole Miss defense. So either one of those two.
So after talking about it, it's time to get into some predicting about it. Alabama, Ole Miss, this Saturday. Vaught-Hemingway Stadium is going to be crazy. College game day will be in Oxford. What's your prediction for this one?
Well, in this game, I want to say Ole Miss, this is the biggest weekend in the Magnolia State's history since either Eli or since the 50s, whichever one you want to pick.
I'm going to say Archie.
Since Archie. So, with that being said, I know the state was ready for this. I know they'll be up and ready at Ole Miss for game day. But I'm still going with the Crimson Tide in this game. I can't see them losing this game on the road, especially to a Bo Wallace-led team. I'm going with Bama in this one. But my score is a little different than what I would normally think. I was thinking this game would be pretty close. I still think it's going to go exactly like the Florida game and exactly like we've seen other Alabama games go before. Halftime, they're hanging in there. There's a close margin. Second half, they always make adjustments as they do, and they find a way to win the game. 38-24. I believe that'll be the final score in favor of the Crimson Tide.
You're going to go with Alabama 38-24, coming alive in that second half. I'm going to go with Alabama as well, but I think this game right here, Alabama's going to come out on fire in the first half. I feel like Alabama's been known for being a second half team. But I feel like Coach Saban, offensive coordinator Lane Kiffin, is going to get that offense fired up and ready to play in that first half. They're going to get the ball moving. They're going to get it rolling. The second half is going to be a steamroll. Ole Miss will score. They'll keep it competitive for the most part. But in that first half, Alabama's going to come out on fire. But as always, I'm going to pick the Crimson Tide to win this football game by the final score of 38-24. to 14. Blake Sims has a great game. Bo Wallace, he will hang into that first half, but that second half, that pressure's going to really start to get to him. So I'm going to go with Alabama 38-14.
Okay, I can agree with you and see that happen. I just, like you said, Bo Wallace is just as a question mark, and as proven it, and as unproven as he's been. Sorry about that. As unproven as he's been, I just don't think he'll do that well in this big game, even though it is at home in Oxford.
This is his third chance to get first impression against Alabama. In 2 games, only 282 passing yards with 2 interceptions for Bo Wallace. This is his third chance to make a good first impression. Well, that's all for the Alabama Ole Miss predictions. But don't touch that dial, because when we get back, we go over some key matchups in the Southeastern Conference and also touch on some national action that will take place this weekend. You're listening to 15 and Counting, Touchdown Alabama Magazine's premier football show.